2, 1. Well, hey folks, here we are as promised. The #1 first-time debut of News with the Cruise here live at the Bluegrass Acre in Lebanon, Tennessee. I'm here with my two good friends, sidekicks, cohorts, whatever you want to call them, Mr. Derwin Hinson and David Mansfield. How you doing, guys?
I'm good. How you doing, David?
I'm doing good. Hanging right in there.
Well, I guess we could just talk a little bit. Now, Derwin, guess we could tell them a little bit about how we met. You know, what's our background, a little bit like that.
Yeah, that'd be fine. Well, we met actually at the world famous Station Inn, if you remember.
The world famous Station Inn, man. That's been a great place for all of us musicians to hang out for many years, and it's just been great.
Basically our second home, really.
Yeah, it's a safe haven for all of us musicians.
It don't get any better than that now, I'll tell you.
So what's that story where I met you the first time you was playing or something other? And
Oh, yeah. Oh, well, see, I used to go to the Station Inn years ago. I mean, it's been running since the 70s, and JT's had it for so long. You know, JT Gray, and well, he's one.
boy, we love JT, don't we?
I'm telling you, everybody.
He's getting inducted, too.
That's right.
Exactly
He's getting
right.
inducted to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, the IBMA.
IBMA.
Right.
Man, he deserves
And
it.
he does.
Every,
He really deserves it.
every bit of it. He, yeah, and one of these days we're gonna get him in here. I think I'm hoping.
Well,
to.
we'll get him in
Yeah.
here. You know, folks. These two guys here are sort of going to be helping me out on the podcast. You know, every week or every few days, whenever it is. However long when we do it. And
Keep you notified.
yeah, it's always good to have two
Turn
heads,
them notifications on.
2 or 3 heads better than one. So
Hit that little
They're gonna be
bell
helping me
button
out.
there.
Like and spread it on. No, we was down there when I moved back to Nashville and wanted to go down to Station Inn, and it took me a while to get on back down in there. But the first night that I went, of course, I remember JT and then Paul, his brother, and who's gone to heaven now.
Yeah.
But we sure do miss him too. But that first night though, this little whippersnapper come up in there with a banjo, and boy, he is laying the thumb to her now. I'm telling you. And his sidekick was sawing on that fiddle, and I mean, doing some stuff like I ain't heard in a while.
Play that
it-
Vassar
it-
stuff, old Vassar
Yeah,
Clemens.
boy, I mean, he
Yeah,
was
I
getting
appreciate
it.
that.
It was good, but I just instantly just fell in love with these boys. They are just good friends. Me and my wife Alene, and we just love them and love to pick with you and love just hanging out with you. And they good boys. Now I'm telling you what, but they're super pickers and singers.
well, we love y'all too, and we sure appreciate all the hospitality that you've shown us, and all the cool picking memories we've got, and all that.
Oh yeah, we're making some good
Going to
memories.
different places and playing, like we have.
That's right. That's right.
And it's always good to be a good close friend of Santa Claus.
Oh,
Yeah.
it don't hurt nothing. Hey,
I'm gonna
baby.
give you. Hey,
Oh,
oh man, I tell you what. Yeah, I'll go ahead and give Derwin a plug here. He's a Santa Claus in the off season or the on season, whatever you want to call it.
Whatever it is, that's me right there. Boy.
That's right, that's Santa Claus. Yeah, MyRealSanta.com. MyRealSanta.com.
He shakes the list and shakes it twice.
That's right.
We'll find out if you've been naughty or nice.
I don't think I ain't looking.
I got it.
Folks, I just want you to know that we're taking some very fashion risks today, and we got our coffee mugs. We got to make it look official. We got all this set up here, and
Looks like,
got our little notepads. So,
looks like a King of the Hill episode.
yeah, it looks like King of the Hill.
Mine's like my mind is blank.
Well, Derwin, so talking about meeting at Station Inn, now you was here in Nashville before
Yes, sir.
I met you. That's a good number.
Oh, before I get this, I thought I was swinging.
What?
Yeah.
Well, tell me about some of the guys that you picked with. I know that you played a little bit with the great Larry Cordell
Oh,
and
yes.
Wayne Lewis, who played for Bill Monroe.
That's exactly right.
And now tell me a little bit about you getting a job with Charlie Louvin.
Well, it was, I'm from Wilmington, which happens to be where Charlie Daniels is from. And so,
Rest his soul, he just passed away a couple days ago.
he sure did. I tell you what,
That's terrible.
it really is. We're gonna miss him. A great
He's
patriot and a good heart.
Good man.
Yes, sir.
And another great one that passed away was Ennio Morricone. I think it's how you say his name. He wrote all the music for the spaghetti westerns, Good, Bad, and
Oh,
Ugly, and
that's
A Fistful of Dollars, and that's
can't
yeah,
do
good,
that.
Derwin.
I can't do it.
He
You
passed
can't-
away.
Yeah.
I think he passed away the same day as Charlie
I
Daniels.
think he did. Sure
But,
did.
you have to tell me a little bit about you and
Well,
you and Charlie.
It was in Wilmington. A friend of mine that was in the band, Tommy Simmons. He called me up on a Saturday, and he said he had an extra ticket to see Charlie Lubin that night in Wilmington, and his wife had gotten sick, and he wanted to know if I wanted to take advantage of that ticket. And I said, yes, sir. So he said, well, I'll leave it for you at the door. So I went and done that. Now, there's a little pre-story, just a couple of lines here. Normally, at the time, in my van, I had all my instruments in the back of a van. It was a 75 Chevrolet van that I kept everything. Boy, whatever I needed, I just pick it out, and there we go. But I had run over a piece of metal in the road that the corners was up, and it poked a hole in my gas tank.
Oh Lord.
So that was on Friday, the day before I met Charlie Lubin. So anyway, so I called up my buddy, and he said, get it on over here to the shop. And this was right after lunch on Friday, so I got to his shop. He wanted to drain the tank, then he could repair it after, the fumes evaporated out of it. So the next morning he got in there, and every how he fixed it by Saturday, around lunchtime or so, I went to pick up my van. Needless to say, I took all my instruments out, so it was without instruments. So when I got home, my mama said that I had this call, so I called Tommy back and got the invite to go see Charlie Lubin that night. So anyway, we went, and boy, it was great. I'm telling you, just something about that Nashville band, just how tight they were and everything. So I was sitting over there, and the drummer left the stage, and I said, boy, y'all sure are tight. And he said, do you play? And I said, well, a little bit. He said, what do you play? I said, well, banjo, guitar, and dobro, and
Yeah, just everything with strings on.
well, right, to play at it is exactly right. But he said, well, man, you need to talk to Charlie. Charlie's thinking about doing a bluegrass thing next year.
And this was long after Ira had passed away.
Yes, Ira died Father's Day in '65.
Yeah.
And so it was a while ago. But
And then it started the Lubin Brothers, and then what did he have the band named? Charlie Lubin and
the Sand Mountain Boys is when I was there.
okay.
So I guess that's
yeah, that's
what
what I
it
was
was.
wondering. Yeah.
And we did the Country Boy Eddie show. Anyway, but what happened, Charlie, so I went back there, and the drummer, his name is Craig, he said, he told Charlie a little bit about, me, and so Charlie, he quickly asked me, he said, well, have you got any instruments with you? I said, man, ordinarily I would, but I don't today. So he said, well, I'd like to hear you on the dobro and the banjo. I said, well, yes, sir, I'll get one. So one of my dobro students had to be the city manager of Wilmington, Dan Eller, was there that night. When I walked out, he said, hey, man, I see you back there talking with Charlie. I said, yeah. I said, he's wanting to hear me on the dobro. And I said, I don't have anything. He said, man, my dobro's about like a mile and a half, 2 miles away. He said, I'll go get my dobro. Well, Dan had an excellent dobro.
Oh,
he
man.
really did. And so he said, let me go get my dobro. And I said, well, you sure you don't mind? I hate putting anybody in trouble. He said, man, I'll be right back. So he was gone. And so I called up, and my daddy was sitting on the edge of the bed, getting ready to go to bed. And I said, Daddy, I got a chance to audition for Charlie Lubin. I said, but I need my banjo. He said, well, I'll be right along with it as soon as I can get there. So Daddy went and got my banjo and brought it out. So anyway, what happened that night, Charlie said, now, we'll get up here and I'll bring you out. So he did, of course, in front of the home folks, he said, we're gonna have one of your home folks join us up here. Y'all make welcome to Derwin Hinson. Well, I knew about it. I had family in our crowd, so stepped out there, and what happened? He used to wear those cowboy shirts with them 4 snaps right here,
Mm-hmm.
and
More, yeah, they really make a racket on them.
what happened? I got one of
them.
them pearl buttons stuck on that dobro, and it wouldn't let me get over across the river.
You couldn't get on.
And boy, I had a great and Dan found that button about 2 months later.
I got my dress caught in Johnny Cash's guitar strap.
Oh yes, hey, that's exactly right. But anyway, so I got out on stage and he gave me a break on one of the tunes he knew that I would know, and so it went good. And then he said, "Well, we can't let him leave here without playing the Foggy Mountain Breakdown." So we played the Foggy Mountain Breakdown, and so afterwards he said, "I'd like you to be with me on the opera next Friday night." So that was the first time that had ever been offered, and so I said, "Well, yes, sir."
Well, you know, that's how it happens. You know, that's how it happens in this town. It just,
You gotta be at the right place. At the
you
right
got to
time.
be at the right place at the right time. Yeah, that's just what David said. And you,
Well, and I told Charlie that. I said, "Charlie, if you don't even hire me," I said, I'm not saying I don't want the job. I said, if you don't hire me, you need to hear my brother sing, because he sings tenor in the clouds. Is what I told
well,
him.
that's just sort of like me and him. You know, you and your brother was kind of a dynamic duo. You know, for a long time.
Dun, da, da.
Dun, da, da.
Derwin.
And me and
Oh,
him,
oh, oh.
me and him, there's been, and I still do it. There was so many times that I held him captive and made him listen to selling scene records with me. You know, going down the road, going down the road miles and miles at a time, just playing them records over and over. And finally, I took to singing the tenor part, and he'd take a baritone.
Oh,
And we'd
yeah.
have them worked out, man. You know, I'm
Oh, y'all
a
got a
big
lot of
fan of
things
John Duffy, man.
Yes,
He's one of my idols. And,
That's a lot of reason we always work together on
Well, that's-
projects. You know, 'cause
that's
they
a
always-
lot of times why we work together, because
you got
a
your
lot of
tenor
people
and
hire
your
us for
baritone.
Oh yeah.
for a harmony, you know.
Well, y'all whatever they need, y'all got it. I mean, y'all got it covered. So,
We try.
but y'all do
Well,
good.
tell me a little bit, David, there about you. You know, where you come from. We started playing music, and you know, how you learned to sing. Of course, I know you grew up in church, and
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was born in Hendersonville, Tennessee, but we lived in Trenton for a while, and then we lived in Martin for a while.
yeah,
You know, that's where I'm from.
way on down there in West Tennessee.
Yep.
Down in the flatland.
Hey, there's gonna be an edit point right here, because this part's good. You want to hear this part, okay? So I told Charlie, said, "Okay, just cut it right back here." I said,
Sorry about that,
No,
Derwin.
no,
We,
no,
we cut you
no,
off.
Hey, no, edit this all out. This gonna be.
No, this is gonna be
Because I'm still thinking
this is
about
gonna be
stuff.
good. People want to see this. They
No,
want to
they
see us.
wanna
Like,
see
well,
it,
anyway,
Barbara.
just tell us what.
He said, "Well, does your brother play?" I said, "He plays mandolin." And so he said, "Well, that could help." So he said, "Tell you what," he said, you play next Friday night with me on the Opry." He said, "We got one show Friday night." He said, "Have your brother bring his mandolin." He said, and then we'll audition him. And we got 2 shows Saturday night. If all works out well, that's how it'll be. So I went home that night and told my brother, "So look, we got a job with Charlie Lewin starting next Friday night." And he said, "Well, you ain't sure I'll get the job?" I said, "You'll get the job." So I told him, you know. And what we didn't realize was, so we had to meet Charlie at the union, because you had to join the union back then to be on the opera period. So we met him at the musicians union, or we met him actually at Shoney's, and we went to the musicians union. He got us signed up, and so that night, Friday night, the first song we did was "Be Nobody's Darling But Mine" and "Be Cool."
Nobody's
Son.
darling but mine.
So when I had a dobro breaker on there, when I stepped up, he said, "Here's Derwin Hinson from Wilmington, North Carolina." Now, boys, don't you know, my daddy had to drive out to a little point past the islands out there so it reached WSN, but he was a listener.
Oh,
Boy,
he was-
that made
that's
him proud
great.
now, right there. So anyway, we got off stage doing that one song, and Charlie mentioned, he said, "Well, what songs do you know of the Leuven brothers?" And Danny said, "I'm not real sure." So Charlie named about 3 songs, and Danny knew a couple of them. So, boy, as soon as Charlie started singing, Danny jumped in on that tenor, and he sounded a lot like Ira, so.
I bet that said his field's on fire.
Oh, it did. You could tell Charlie just lit up, and everybody in the dressing room, you could feel the electricity in him. But when Danny took a break, it sounded a lot like Ira. So what we didn't know at the time, my daddy loved Bill Monroe, but he couldn't play that single note and string stuff, so he played a lot of closed positions like Ira Leuven. So he taught my brother a lot of the breaks and turnarounds that turned out to be just like Ira. So when Danny would step up and do that mandolin thing, boy, I mean, people around just say, I mean, I can't tell
They
you.
remembered what Ira did,
Oh,
with Charlie.
They thought Danny was reincarnated, Ira, from Ira Leuven. But anyway, he was born 2 years before he died, so that the math didn't figure out. But anyway, that's how we got with Charlie Leuven.
Well, that's, you know, and that's sort of along the same lines how you got with Vern Gosden. Also, you and your brother, right?
That's
Now,
correct.
tell me that story. I know you've told me that before. Now, tell me that again about how, you know, Vern
Yeah, I
said he
like
was
that.
sort of just wore out coming out back of the show, you know.
Oh yeah, he was. And
Yeah, I was looking for
I got
another
with,
job.
with his road manager. I said, "Look," I said, "Me and my brother want to talk with Vern about a job." And he said, "Well, what do y'all do?" And I said, "Well, we're wanting to talk with him about harmony because we'd sang with him before about behind the opera when we was with Charlie." He said, "Well, he's got harmony singers." And I said, "Oh yeah, and they do a fine job." I said, "I just."
Well, they do a fine job, but
Yeah.
they ain't me and Danny. No.
No.
Is that what you told him?
No. I said, we like to, you know, in case he ever needs us, you know, we just want to, you know, get to him. So anyway, so he said, okay, I'll tell Vern. So he came back out and he said, when Vern comes off stage, he said, be at this door right here, and we're gonna walk past the bus down here because we don't want all the band, you don't want anybody to get nervous.
Yeah.
So as soon as Vern come out, he was with his road manager. His road manager kind of tipped his head at us, or nodded to us, whatever. So we walked on past the bus, around the corner a little ways. So finally he comes down there with Vern, and so later I'm piecing together part of the story. But Vern said he met us and all, and he said he had Jesus Hold My Hand on the record, on the radio right now.
Yeah.
He said, well, do y'all know my song I got on the radio right now, Jesus Hold My Hand? And he was expecting us to say no, because that's call and answer time,
Oh yeah,
knowing the
you
words.
got to really study
Southern
that.
gospel.
And so I said, yes, sir, we do. So he went, okay. So
Want
he
to
said,
test
well,
you.
we ain't got a guitar. I said, hey, we don't need a guitar to sing. And that's what I told him.
Yeah.
So he said, okay, well, I'll sing a verse, let y'all get your pitch, and then we'll go. So he said, as I travel through the field, and there's a friend who walks with me. Yeah, boy,
Sound just like it.
he just was not into it. And so finally got to the chorus, and he said, Jesus, me and Danny jumped like, Jesus, home. He went, I need you. He come alive, boy.
I love it. I love
So
it.
That's good.
he said, first thing he said, you're hired. And his road manager said, well, wait a minute, we got some logistics we got to talk about. He said, no, they're hired. He said, boy, I'll tell you what, he just got all excited. So we was with him a couple of years. But
You
it
knocked
was-
them old boys out of a job, didn't you?
Well, no, they still stuck around, but he just had me and Danny singing the parts for a while, so it was and they were real good, boy. They went on to great careers and still one of them's going on to heaven, but one of them's still picking and on a nationwide TV show right now. So he's just real good, just excellent guitarist and singer and
Wow.
everything he does. Matter of fact, I heard him sing the other day, boy. I thought, oh. Man, he needs to do more singing, but anyway, so he's real good. Anyway, so we didn't really knock nobody out of nothing, but they allowed us to be a part of it for a little bit. So we got to do Farm Aid 1 and a few things that was really cool.
Oh, y'all played Farm Aid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh man, that's cool.
That was fun. But anyway, yeah. So that's kind of you get to know a little bit about Derwin here.
Well, and then you came on to Nashville.
Yeah, at the Bluegrass Acre.
Yeah.
At the
By the
Bluegrass
way,
Acre.
we're at the
That's
Bluegrass
right.
Acre.
Yeah.
By the way, we're at the Bluegrass Acre, folks. I just want you to know.
In case you missed it.
In case you didn't.
We're reiterating this stuff here. No.
That'll be an edit point, I'm sure.
And so fast forward now that I'm still. I don't want to interrupt you now because you're on a roll.
I mean, you get me on the road. I can't stop.
We're gonna edit this thing real quick. No. So you moved back to North Carolina. Then you came back when was that? 10, 15 years later?
Well, actually, almost 30.
Okay.
Because
You came right back, I guess about when we met you, right?
we had just moved back. What it was, my dad got sick, and we had no question about going to helping Mama with Daddy, because I said, well, if Music City ever has anything to offer us, it'll be here. And as much as I hated to leave, because I'm telling you, it hurt my heart, because I was making some good friends and some higher ups and starting to do a little bit of studio work. And Jimmy Katz, bless his heart, that just went to heaven this year too. He got me my first session.
Pioneer.
And so with the ones he got, it led to a few more. So I was doing some session work with Buddy Spiker, Weldon Myrick, Rob Hay Jacobs. I've been in with some great names. I mean,
I with the good ones, wasn't you?
well, there's a lot of good ones.
You're talking about a hoss, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And
He's a killer. It
Lord,
still is. to this
oh,
day.
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Still play.
They got the privilege, which led later to play with the great Glenn Duncan with Larry, and then Uncle Art Stamper from Kentucky.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, shiver me timbers, boys.
Shiver me timbers. Now, one more story here. One more story I want you to tell me. Now, you used to room with an Art.
Oh yeah.
You used to room with Art now, and I say he'd be over there, and they had two beds in the room. And he'd be in one. You'd be in this other, and you'd be over here dead asleep, you know. And what do so he's talking about him playing the fiddle and waking you up?
Oh yeah, Uncle Art, 2 o'clock in the morning, sitting there in his boxer drawers, cross-legged in the middle of the bed, playing the fiddle like this right here. And boy, I learned real quick that if you rolled over and just opened an eyeball, that was the invitation. He'd take that fiddle bow and say, tap, 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 tap. He'd say, oh, hey there. Yeah, do you remember that pucking on the vine?
Pucking on the vine.
I said, I don't know, Art. He said, well, a lot of people think it's like a tomato on the vine, but it ain't. And boy, he knew all them old timey
Too many vines.
So it was a big treat being here. He'd be on stage and he'd do the crow caller. He was.
Didn't he borrow Lonnie Pierce's fiddle one time?
Art Stamper one?
Yeah.
Oh, Lonnie Pierce's fiddle.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, he did. Well,
Well, tell me that one.
That was yeah. Well,
It wasn't good.
Can't really tell you what he said, you know, but I reckon he borrowed Lonnie Pierce's fiddle, and I don't even wanted to play the Mockingbird on
I
it.
ain't listen to Mockingbird.
Oh no.
You know how.
Well, so he borrowed his fiddle, and now I've just vaguely heard the stories that he got up there and started playing and played that Mockingbird. Well, what you do with that, you know, you make them noises, go like a bird, different kind of birds or whatever it was, you know, and he got up there really sawing down on it, and then when he got done, he put shaving haircut on the end of it. Doodle 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 doodle, and then he turned around and said whack whack like that on, and boy, Lonnie Pierce jumped through the roof. He said, Art Stamper, you so and so, you know. Man, that was so funny.
I'll kill you. That's a real canary.
That's a real canary.
Oh, bless him.
Curtis Birch told me that story.
That's funny. Lonnie Pierce was funny.
Well, tell me a little bit about you growing up now. If it's okay, we
Oh,
want to know.
This is
So
gonna
tell me,
cut
you
off
grew
the
up
story
in-
about the Midway.
You grew up in Southern Gospel, and
Well,
Yeah.
he was born where now?
I was born in Hendersonville. Yeah, born in
moved down to
Hendersonville.
Martin.
Moved to Martin. That's where all my family's at. And then we moved to Nashville with my grandparents. My grandparents pastors, so
You know, they run a church over in Madison.
yeah, over in Madison. So we were right outside of Nashville. So I got to go to Nashville kind of in a way. You know, I mean, I had played growing up. I started playing drums when I was like 4. You know,
But you had no idea you was going to Music City, did you?
No, I mean, I didn't think nothing about it at the time. You know, I played that, and I played the Chet Atkins style guitar stuff for a little bit by then, you know. And then when we moved here, I started playing piano and stuff. So
Well,
I
they
got-
recruited you at the church to play piano.
yeah,
for
I
them.
started playing piano at the church, you know, so that got me. And I had a good friend of mine that played for Marty Stewart for years. He was playing drums, and sometimes he'd play bass, and he taught me a lot of stuff about playing, you know, when I was on the piano, about playing jazz and chord theory and stuff like that, you know, where to place a chord here and there. And
Now, wasn't that how you met Kim?
yeah, that's how I met Kim.
And
Well, I knew her kids is what it was.
Why do you know her? Yeah, you hung
I
out
knew
with
her
her. They're
kids.
about your age.
Yeah, they were my age. Met them when I was 9. And I met her, and she played the fiddle, and I knew what a fiddle was. You know, I had some family members who played the fiddle. But
But you ain't been playing about 5 years.
no,
have you?
I have about 5 years now, maybe
But
5
you got
and
to
a half.
hanging around with Kim, and she
Yeah, I got to hanging around Kim. And
got you going on that fiddle.
I just, for some odd reason, fell in love with the way she played it. You know, it was like, I'd listen to a fiddle, you know, on a record, but hearing
yeah.
one she was sitting in the kitchen is what she was. It was sitting over at their house. And they had a real good acoustic house. I mean, you could hear everything. And she'd sit in there, and it was like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. She was playing old fiddle tunes and stuff, and old waltzes, and I was like, man, that is pretty, you know.
Yeah,
And she's such a great player anyway, too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, she's actually been a cornerstone for me in a way, because when you got with her and you've been friends with her for years, that's sort of how I got hooked up with you and Brian Graves and Graves Bloodline. And
well, they called me for they called me for the piano gig.
Yeah, they called you to play piano.
They wanted me to come
Kim
play
was playing
piano on a session.
And it's funny. They had a song that they was trying to do. Now this is just going back talking about how things can happen in this town. And I went in and he said, "You want to ride up with me to the studio?" Because he was already hanging around. They was trying to form Graves Bloodline. And
Tim Graves asked me to come up there.
Yeah, it was Tim Graves. Tim was playing with him, dobro player. Yeah. And so we went up there, and I was just sort of hanging around. I had gotten out of recording school. I went to school at Blackbird Academy. So I was out trying to hunt down an intern job. So I went up there hoping maybe Brian would let me work a little bit in the studio, maybe brush the floor or get him some coffee or something other, And they was doing this song, and he said, "Will you play anything?" I said, "Yeah, I play banjo." He says, "I got this song here that I can't get anybody to play us." It was a certain little lick on one of these songs, and he said, "I can't get anybody to do it. Nobody knows how to do it." I said, "Well, let me hear it." So he plays it, and I listened to it a couple times, and I said, "You got a banjo sitting here?" He said, "I got a banjo sitting right over there." I went out and got it. I tuned it up, and I sat there and listened to it. I said, "Play it again." And then I just played that lick, just to the best of my ability. And he said,
which was good.
He said, I want to put you on this song. I want to record you." So he recorded me, and I automatically switched from one side of the glass to the other. I come up there looking for a recording job, and got in with the band. And then, of course, later on, Graves Bloodline sort of, parted ways. But we all sort of reformed back together in the Farmhands.
Kind of in a way, yeah.
Kind of in a way, most of us that played in the band come back with the Farmhands, and
You need to drop that piano and pick up the guitar.
Well, it's a great band. I have fun doing it.
Oh yeah, y'all sound great.
Tim's a great guy.
Yeah,
Brian's a
good,
great guy. I love Kim to death. She's great. Plays a great fiddle. David's an A1 musician.
Oh yeah, anything.
And so
I appreciate it.
I'm blessed to be playing with a lot of good pickers. And something else though, we was talking about coming to town and sort of how we learned and things like that. When I first come to town, the first job that I got was with Ray Cardwell.
Mm-hmm.
And man, I want to tell you, Ray, and then later David joined with me, but Ray taught me more about how to be a professional in a band, how to sing vocal harmony parts.
Well, y'all sound great with him too now.
Man, I had so much fun playing with Ray. He's just a great guy, and he's very knowledgeable about music and music theory, and I just had a great time playing with him. And here a few years ago, he's from Missouri. He had to up and move back to Missouri, and he's doing great out there in the scene.
Good.
He's got a new band, and we couldn't. It was such long distance, we couldn't really make it back and forth, so much. So we had to stay behind, but had some great memories playing with Ray, and hopefully there'll be more to come.
Still miss doing it,
And that's sort of contributing, tying all this together about how we sing so much.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
How we sing together.
He was the one that's responsible, really, for that. Honestly, truly.
See, there was a guy, Theo McMillan, was playing fiddle with Ray, and he quit the band, and David come in, and we started singing all these wild a cappella songs, and I mean, he would have like 6 parts, and they would split off, and it would sound like, Bohemian Rhapsody, all this stuff. It was cool.
Well, even his songs, the way the vocals were arranged were so like Why Don't You Open Your Eyes?
Oh man.
And stuff like that. We had that down so good that it was just, nobody else was singing harmony like that, you know.
You know, we'll have to get Ray in sometime.
Yeah, that would be cool.
yeah.
Let's do that.
Yeah.
Oh, he'd love it. Love it.
You know, I'm afraid to start even mixing too many names because, you know.
We want to get them all on the podcast.
Oh,
We got to get
yeah.
Tim in. We got to get
well,
Brian, you know.
Even the ones you've already
Curtis.
mentioned, we got to get all them in. But I mean, we could sit here and name
there's
a
so many
list
more.
this long that we know in common and others. And so anyway, yeah, there's just a bunch of people.
We'd be making podcasts from here to doomsday, wouldn't we?
Well, we put it off for a while.
Well, Derwin, you know, I do enjoy singing with you, and I know David does too. Why don't we do a little number here, just a little refrain or
Yeah,
something?
I'll record that House of
Do a
Gold.
little House of Gold.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
So we got a note somewhere
Right there.
that he.
Some people steal, they cheat and lie for the wealth and what it will buy. But don't they know on the judgment day all the gold and silver will melt away? I'd rather be in a deep dark grave and know that my poor soul was saved than to live in this world in a house of gold and deny my God and doom my soul. I think I stepped right in your part, didn't I?
Well, that's all we have.
We needed to fire at it.
Do it one more
Let's
time.
do that ending
I'm
part
pretty.
one more time. You can probably.
This microphone's pretty hot, so you probably hear. Get on in there, Derwin. Let's hear
Oh,
you,
yes,
boy.
I'm
Oh, let's
right
hear
in
you,
there,
boy.
boy.
Do it one more time with gusto.
Yeah, the whole thing, everything, last thing, or everything.
Let's do that. Do the last verse.
Okay.
I mean, last chorus.
I'd rather be in a deep dark grave and know that my poor soul was saved than to live in this world in a house of gold and deny my God and do my soul and deny my God and do my soul.
There it was.
Don't do it. Hello.
Hello.
Goodbye.
People have more fun than anybody, you
I
know.
just wanted to do.
Hello.
Hello.
You know what time it is?
Bluegrass Acre.
News with the cruise at the Bluegrass Acre.
It's time for
News with the cruise. No.
At the Bluegrass Acre. Where are we again?
Film.
So if we forget,
Filmed and engineered.
filmed and engineered, edited, spliced,
on location.
on location, live
Set. Even props, everything.
at the Bluegrass Acre.
Amen.
Look
Yeah.
here.
Identical. That's right. Okay, so we're gonna edit right here, about right there, and we're gonna get Kelsey. Well, Kelsey.
Derwin is my personal editor. He puts the tea time on it when we when we need to edit. All right, Derwin.
Hello.
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 Goodbye. Okay, no. All right, here we go.
That's all, folks.
All right, so we're gonna get you. We're gonna find out all about Kelsey. Well, Kelsey, tell us about when you got started. What inspired you?
I'll tell you, Derwin. I was about, I was about 6 years old. Well, actually, I'd been, beating and banging around on anything that made a noise, had strings, pots, pans, or whatever. I always had a little old toy guitar. I think my aunt got me a little guitar at a yard sale one time, and I always just liked to beat around on that, and I always liked anything that made noise. And so when I was about 6 years old, my daddy, I started watching him playing the guitar, and he knew 3 chords, D, A, and G. So if it had a 1, 4, 5, he could play in D and play anything he wanted as long as it's in 3 chords.
3 chords and the truth.
3 chords and the truth.
And if it had a 1, 2, and a 5, he's good in G.
That's right.
Fabulous.
But
1, 7 flat 4 is good in A too.
You got that high lonesome sound.
Yeah.
But I started watching him play, and I just got interested in it. And he really inspired me, as far as music goes. And so I wanted to get into it. He bought me a little bitty Alvarez, one of those 3/4 size things. Yeah. Had one of those and played on that for a while. And there was a little place up in my hometown up in Glasgow called Backstage Music Company. And my dad worked actually with the guys up there, Kenny Weber and Ricky Birch and those guys. Some of you may know them. And so I went up there and took my first lesson. On the guitar. Just, barely could tinker around on it, And so I would do that all the time. I'd learn my chords, play, try to, do what I could. And I finally just got better and better. And I kind of got away from it. I don't know why, I just lost interest or something. And I don't know, I guess I must have been,
Being a kid.
yeah,
probably.
being a kid, too busy out
What's wrong with you, being a kid?
playing baseball or something other, whatever. And but then I got interested in it because I started back watching that Cumberland Highlander show.
Oh yeah.
The Cumberland Highlander.
56-piece band. No.
That's the only band I know of that's got 56 members in it.
We got 4 bands.
And,
Hey, they got them covered everywhere from stage.
That's right. 25 fiddlers on stage.
We got an orchestra on stage.
But anyway, so I started watching, the banjo on TV, and I said, man, I was really just impressed with that and enthralled by the banjo.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I've got to have one. So I told Daddy, I said, Daddy, get me a banjo. I've got to have one for Christmas. He said, well, I guess I can, And so finally Santa Claus, it was you the whole time.
Oh, we're gonna say that.
It all roads
You
lead
brought
to
me-
Santa. No.
You brought me a banjo. First one I had was a Washburn.
Yeah.
One of them little, I'm
Big-
not gonna say it wasn't no good, Derwin, because you brought me a good one
Yes.
to learn on.
Hey, thanks for the oatmeal raisin cookie.
That's right. I even found a beard hair in it.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I got this banjo, started picking around on it, said, I can't do it, I said, this ain't nothing like a guitar, So I put it in the corner. It was about 2 years. I finally got back out and I got it back out and started picking on it. And I learned a little bit of Cripple Creek, the whole 9 yards, Foggy Mountain Breakdown and the whole thing. And from there, later on, my dad passed away and we moved down to Nashville. And that's sort of how I got started, When you get in this town, it's just up and up and up.
That's right.
So you can pretty much fill in the
who's some of
blank
your,
from there.
So who's some of your now I know, but tell the folks who's some of your biggest heroes as far as the banjo goes.
You get me started on that. Courtney Johnson was my all-time idol on the banjo. He just was so different, innovative, just had his own way of approaching it, you know, like nobody else. He was, and so I got all interested in these early Newgrass Revival records. I started listening to them. Well, it's funny, before I had mentioned Ricky Birch, which I later found out was kin to my good friend Curtis now, and so I called him up one day. I said, "Hey," I said, "You ain't kin to Curtis?" He said, "Yeah, he's my brother." And I said, "You got to take me to meet him." So we pull up, man. Curtis is sitting there in all his glory. He gets out a guitar, and I get out my banjo, and we start picking, and man, it was just like we went back 40 years, went back in time. And he said, "Man, I hadn't played some of that stuff in 30 years, because by that time I had really been studying Courtney style, and I don't find a lot of people who play that style these days."
You do it well, then.
Mm-hmm. Well,
one of my favorites.
Appreciate it, And then later on, one of my other big idols, of course, like I mentioned before, was John Duffy. And man, he was just he was something else. He would get up on stage and that would be it. He'd just take over, And his singing was, he didn't sing like a lot of other people because he was sort of classically trained, when he was growing up. And I just sort of fell into that style, and I always loved that 70s sound, how the early 70s, how that music sounded so much different. Newgrass Revival, Early Seldom Seen, Country Gentleman, Old and in the Way, later Osborne Brothers stuff. It was just, it all contributed to my style.
Oh yeah.
I never did go much past the 80s, because it completely changed. Got too polished for me, so I like when it's got that. Yeah, you gotta have that grit to it,
The raw element.
Yeah, that's right.
Raw.
That's right.
Hey, buddy.
Monday Night Raw.
Yeah.
But I like that grit to it, and I've really been blessed to be around a lot of great people, and made a lot of good friends, played a lot of good music, been a lot of nice places. Music's really been there for me, and been something that I think everybody should experience. Whether it's through music or whatever it is that flips their coin.
Right.
But for me, I mean, it's like I say, I've met a lot of great people, and I'm just thankful. Yeah. And I owe that all to the good Lord, I believe.
That's exactly right.
But
well, you can definitely tell that it's you've got a lot, both you boys do. Y'all got a lot of just natural talent. It's really good.
Well, it's everything I've got, I try to be thankful for, and try not to take nothing for granted.
That's a good way to get. The reason they put me in the middle here because we thought about calling this podcast 101, and
101
podcast 101.
Well, what do you think? I think we've covered a lot of ground today.
I think we did too.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Yeah.
Well, folks, I want to thank you for tuning in to the very first, but not last, the very first News with the Cruise podcast. Please tune in next week or whenever we do it, very soon, and like and share and comment and all that good stuff, because we love to hear from you. Thank you, folks. Have a great day. Hope you enjoyed it.
Hello.
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 Goodbye.
Goodbye. No.
News with the Cruise.
Yes. News of the cruise. News of the cruise. News of the cruise. News of the cruise. News of the cruise.